Welcome back to another installment of Unfolding Sales. I'm your host, Tom Bialik. Anybody who's ever made a sales call, particularly their very first sales call, knows what a harrowing experience it could be. The nerves take over. Many times sales reps sit in their car for half an hour or more just trying to figure out the right words to say. Today we're going to talk about the opening of the sales call and how important that is to get off on the right foot. Today, joining me is the opener, Carter Leak. Carter, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
Carter, let's talk a little bit about opening of the sales call. We've gotten trained. Now it's time to go in and actually conduct business. But those nerves take over. We know we're going to be a little nervous going into it. How do we get started? First of all, what are some of the things that we're really trying to accomplish when we open up the sales call? What are our objectives?
Yeah, so objectives of a sales call. First off, we want to build rapport. You want to build a relationship early. It's important to build the relationship in the trust because it's going to last throughout the whole time. The second thing is establishing credibility. You want the buyer to know that you know what you're talking about, just so they don't have anything to worry about. It goes back to trust, I guess.
So building trust, building credibility, just trying to get into the good graces, actually, of our potential customer, correct?
Exactly.
What are some of our goals? Really, what do we really want to get into as we open up this sales call?
You want to gain customer participation. It's important that you put the burden of conversation on the buyer. That way you can kind of listen to what they want. They don't feel like you're talking the whole time. Active listening is very important. That way you can really understand what they're wanting and then repeat it back to them so they know you understand.
So as we think about stereotypical salespeople, sometimes do a lot of the talking, if not too much of the talking. One thing you said that just now really intrigued me, and that's that burden of conversation, trying to alleviate that from ourselves and place it on a buyer. Why do we want to do that? Just
so they don't feel like you're talking the whole time, and the more they're talking, the more you're learning.
So that's the key, is to get the buyer to open up, right? And get them to participate in the sales call so that we don't have that burden of conversation on us all the time. Now, easier said than done, right? How do we go about doing that, Carter?
Hi, my name's Carter. I've come here today prepared to talk to you about whatever you're trying to sell. But before I do, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the topic. That way I can make the best use of your time.
So what you've done, you've come in, you've kind of stated your case as to what it is you're there for. You've set the agenda, so to speak, but now you've taken that burden of conversation and placed it onto the buyer by asking them to participate, by asking them to expound on their thoughts. That way you really make the best use of your time.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Well, that's terrific. Well, I think that'll really help out a lot of people as we look to overcome that, that burden of conversation to get the sales call started and to generate a true dialogue rather than a sales monologue that so many of us are probably used to. Carter, thanks again so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. We've learned a lot.
Thank you for having me.
Once again, I'm Tom Bialik, your host. Thank you so much for joining us for another installment of Unfolding Sales. We'll see you next time.